All right, let's do some Mathity-Math. It says here, a goblin catches 6 fish and 7 skunks for every bird it catches. Write an expression to determine the total number of animals caught by the goblin. Okay, so the first part we're trying to address here is they want us to just write an expression. Write an expression that shows the total number of animals caught. So because we're writing an expression, we're just going to be using variables, constants, and coefficients. No equal signs, no inequalities. And then the second part says, well, if there were 462 animals caught in total, how many of those were skunks? Okay, well, let's tackle the expression first, and then we'll come to the bottom part to see how many of those were skunks. So if we look at this, I think the first idea is to really kind of understand what the story is saying. We know that there's animals caught, and they're caught in a ratio, and it looks like the ratio all kind of hinges on the birds that are caught. So we'll just put a B over here for birds. Okay, so these are the birds. And so it said, you know, one bird was caught, and then something else happens, and something else happens. So when one bird is caught, then there's fish. You get 6 fish, and then you would get 7 skunks. And if you think about that, if we're trying to find the total animals caught, that would add up to 14. Okay, great. But we don't know if it was one bird or 2 birds or 3 birds. But we can kind of create just a little quick diagram here to kind of see what would happen. Well, if we caught 2 birds, then we know there would be 12 fish, and we know there would be 14 skunks. And that's going to give us a total of 28. And so you can kind of see this pattern a bit. Well, what if this goblin was just having a great day, caught 3 birds? Well, if the goblin caught 3 birds, then the goblin would have caught 18 fish, and then would have caught 21 skunks, right? And as this keeps on building, you would see if you added these all up, you would get to 42. Let's see, check my math, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, yeah, 42. And so you kind of see this pattern developing, and this whole pattern really depends on the birds caught. And we don't know how many birds were caught, so as always, what we say, you know, in algebra, if we don't know, we can represent that with a variable. So I'll call this one x for now. We'll just call it x, okay? So the bird is what we're going to represent with x. So if we looked at this x is what actually gets multiplied every time, right? If there's 1 bird, 6 times 1 is 6. If there's 1 bird, 7 times 1 is 7. If there were 2 birds, 2 times 6 is 12. If there were 2 birds, 2 times 7 is 14. So when we look here, we know the bird is x. Well, then we know the fish will be nothing more than saying it's 6 times x. And then we know the skunks is nothing more than saying that it is 7 times x. And this right here is going to be the foundation for your expression. So your expression would be nothing more than a lovely and simple 14x. That is our expression. And if we look, if we come down, this kind of checks out, right? If x is 1, 14 times 1, 14. If x were 2, if the birds were 2, 14 times 2, 28. If x were 3, 14 times 3, 42. So your expression, it checks out. It makes sense. And so then we can use this to kind of jump into our second question. It says, well, what if 462 animals were caught in total? How many of those were skunks? Well, this 14x tells the whole story. This 14x is saying this is the total number of animals caught. So I'm going to write that right here. But this right here says, you know what, actually, 462 was the total number of animals caught. Well, we have two stories here. This says this is the total, and this says the total. Well, they're both right, and they're both the same, so we set them equal. This is just the total number of animals expressed in 2 different ways. So now to isolate x, well, I want x all alone. It's being multiplied by 14. The opposite of multiplying by 14 is dividing by 14. So I just divide both sides by 14. And then you'll see here that x is, I'll just bust out my calculator, 462 divided by 14. We get 33. So in this story, when there were 462 animals caught, we know that x is 33. Well, that is the birds, right? Don't fall for that trick. Your answer is not 33. That's just saying there's 33 birds. We need to apply this variable back up here where we had it broken down by animals. So remember, this was birds, this was fish, and this was skunks. So they said, well, how many were the skunks? So you just take 7 times 33, and you would know that in this whole thing, if 462 animals were caught, 231 of them were skunks. Okay, and that would be your second answer. All right, if you want more practice, make sure you subscribe, and I will post more videos for you guys. Thanks for watching.